Hey everyone, welcome back to the Vibrant Life Source YouTube channel. Hope you all are doing fantabulous. I just got done recording a really interesting, vibrant chat. It is with a wellness and sleep specialist, Suzie Senk, and we all know we need to get a good night's sleep, but this was really interesting, and I think many of us could benefit from what she has to say and what she has to offer. So, make sure you watch the video. All of her information is down in the description box, and hey, while you're down there checking out all her information, go ahead, hit subscribe so you do not miss another video. All right, without further ado, here we go. Hey everyone, welcome back, and I am so excited for today's interview. Today we have wellness and sleep specialist Suzie Senk, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Leanne. I am so excited to speak to you about sleep. It's my favorite topic in the world.
Well, and more and more we are hearing about how important sleep is to living a balanced and healthy lifestyle. And I think people take sleep for granted. I know a lot of my clients do. And I think it's really important that people understand the value of really what does it mean for the body to get a good night's sleep.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and dive in with, tell us a little bit about what does a sleep specialist do?
Right. So I'm not sure what other sleep specialists do, but I can tell you what I do. So I am a holistic sleep specialist, and that's a really, really important part of what I do, because there's, in general, especially in the past, most people who specialized in sleep are medical doctors who are trained in a very, very narrow part of sleep science, where they are taking somnography tests and doing things to analyze what's going on while a person is sleeping, and whether they have sleep apnea or whether they have some other form of sleep disorder. Mm-hmm. So sleep medicine is what existed before people started doing what I do, which is working as a sleep coach. So the difference between that and what I do is that because sleep affects everything and everything affects sleep, and that's actually medically proven. There is not one known function in the body that is not affected for better or worse by sleep or a lack thereof it. So and then not only does sleep affect what's going on physiologically in the body, as we all know, if we don't get a good night's sleep, we're not a very nice person. So sleep also affects our mood, sleep affects our brain's ability to work properly, sleep affects our relationships, and then everything in our environment also affects our ability to sleep. So how our bedroom is set up, whether we're sleeping in an environment that's conducive to sleep, how we spend our day, whether we have a lot of stress in our lives, all of these things are a part of the conversation of sleep. And so my work as a holistic sleep specialist is to help people figure out what the root causes are that are going to be interrupting their ability to sleep well. And also to identify what the most effective and impactful things that they can do immediately in order to be able to get good sleep starting tonight.
Awesome. Tell us, what are some things that, obviously when we talk about symptoms of poor sleep, I think a lot of people, especially like a lot of my clients, they don't attribute a lot of their health issues or just their day-to-day attributed to their sleep. They attribute it to, oh, I'm stressed, oh, all these other things. But they really, coming back to it, they don't associate a poor night's sleep what are are there some symptoms, or are there some things that people can note in themselves to say, oh, maybe this is my sleep is attributing to my poor health, if it will.
Absolutely. And the answer, like I just said, is
Mhm.
basically everything.
Every-
Everything. If you have cancer, if you have an autoimmune disease, if you have depression, if you have anxiety, if you are, having if you're experiencing stress, if you're not handling stress well, if you are short-tempered and you're, impatient with your children or in your relationship, if you're getting in car accidents,
Mhm.
if there anything under the sun is usually related to sleep. And here's the thing, we have an epidemic of sleep deprivation in our society.
Right.
I think, I don't know the exact statistic off the top of my head, but 100 years ago, 200 years ago, we were getting on average 1 or more hours of sleep per night than we do today. And there's all these misnomers out there about how much sleep a person actually needs in order to be able to function optimally. And there's also been research done on this. And you hear lots and lots of people saying, oh, I do great on 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours of sleep. The reality is that the people who do well on less than 8 hours of sleep per night is like 0.0001% of the population. And it's due to a genetic anomaly. So, and we just had recently, we had the daylight savings time shift. So there's been wonderful research and great statistics that show that just that 1 hour of lost sleep that people have is like a 20% increase in cardiac arrest the next day, something similar of a percentage of increase in car accidents. There's they did a study in Denmark that showed that there was like an 18% increase in depression rates as a result of the time change of the loss of 1 hour of sleep. So I think that, to sum it up, there's really not much that is not related to whether we're getting a good night's sleep or not.
So I know that I want to talk, and this is going to be kind of a two-part question, so we'll split it up. Um, First of all, what are some things that people can do on their own to ensure they're getting a better night's sleep?
Great.
So
I love this.
we'll
So,
start with that one.
okay. Do you want to ask the second one, or should we just go with that
Well,
one?
the second part is, so they've tried those things and it's still not working. When do they need to contact you?
Okay, great. So there's something called sleep hygiene, which you can Google and you'll find a gazillion articles on this. And these are all the things that we have that we can control in our environment in order to help us sleep better. The number one thing that people can do in order to improve their sleep is actually regulate the temperature of their sleeping environment. So the reason that we have so many issues with our sleep is because we evolved over a very long time without central heating and air, without power, without indoor lighting, with just the light of the sun and the moon, and then campfires, torchlight, things like this.
Right.
And so we would wake up in huts or something similar. We would go outside when it got warmer and when the sun came up, and that was a cue to our body to wake up and to start our day. And then we would go throughout the entire day, getting lots of natural sunlight, being active. And then as the earth would cool and the sun would go down, we would start to get naturally sleepy. And so now we have indoor lighting at all hours of the day and night. We have stimulating things going on that are keeping our brains awake and telling our brains that it's not time to go to sleep. And we also have regulated heating and cooling systems, and most people keep those two warm. So between 58 and 62 is the optimal temperature for sleep for most people. So if you can keep your thermostat set on a really cool temperature, it will cue your body that it's time to go to sleep. Same thing with the light. if you are blasting bright light, if you're on screens at night, and then you try to all of a sudden shut off and then get into bed and expect your brain to be able to shut off and go straight to sleep, it's not going to happen. So after dark, it's recommended that you dim your lights and you mimic what's going on with the sun. And then in the nighttime, if you need to have ambient light, use amber colored lights or red colored lights, because that will not stimulate the brain, because it doesn't have the blue and the green frequencies of light that are highest in the middle of the day that we get from the natural sun.
Okay. So lighting and temperature are the two areas where we can directly make an impact.
Yes, there are others for sure.
Sure,
So
sure. Those are probably the two places, the best places for people to start. I mean, tonight, people can actually go lower their thermostat.
right. Yes. And I've had clients who did that and that alone. And even their husband said the next day, I really didn't think it was going to make a difference, but I slept better.
Right.
Yeah.
And any other tips that people can do that can ensure better night sleeps? Because we have temperature, we have screen time, lighting, huge.
Yep.
Anything else that
Lots. I can go on forever.
I bet you could. I bet you could.
But I will say there's one that I think is very, very important. So caffeine intake. And in general, the way we eat and what we eat and when we eat. And one more thing, the regularity with which we keep a schedule. So I'll address each of those. So for some people, and again, this goes back to your genetics, for some people, they can have a shot of espresso and go lay down and be out 10 minutes later. For other people who have different gene expression, they have hypersensitivity to either caffeine and or theobromine. Theobromine is the active constituent in chocolate. And so it is the stimulating constituent in chocolate is what I meant to say. So for a lot of people, because both caffeine and theobromine have a very long half-life in the body, if you drink coffee after 2 p.m., it's going to affect your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep and get into deep sleep and stay there. And the same thing for theobromine. So many people like to eat chocolate as a dessert after dinner, and that can wreak serious. And if it doesn't bother you, it's fine. But there are a lot of people for whom it really, really does. And you can have a sensitivity to caffeine and not have a sensitivity to theobromine, or you can have a sensitivity to theobromine and not a sensitivity to caffeine. So you really have to be mindful and aware of what's going on with your body and do an experiment and see, hey, if I cut out the coffee for a couple of days, or I don't eat the chocolate ice cream after bed, does that improve my sleep? So the second thing, and this is a much larger conversation than we have time for here, but what we eat, how we eat, and when we eat is really, really important. And it's related to, we have a circadian rhythm. We have a clock inside of our body that tells us when to be awake and when to be asleep and when to do all sorts of other things like digest, rest, repair. And when we eat at irregular times and when we when we do things at irregular times, it confuses the body. So if on a rare occasion you're going out to a concert, or you're going out to a play, or you're doing something, that keeps you up until midnight, one night a month, not a big deal. If you have a regular and erratic schedule on a regular basis, where on weekdays, sometimes you go to bed at 9 because you really need to get up for work, but sometimes you're binging on Netflix until 11, and then on the weekends you're staying up till 1 or 2, and you're sleeping in because you're trying to catch up on it, but then on the weekdays you have to get up at 6 a.m. You're not going to sleep well because your body can't regulate itself and it doesn't know what it's supposed to be doing. Same thing with food, and there's something related also to blood sugar. So we've heard a lot about like the keto diet and various diets lately. And these are trying to create a blood sugar balance in the body, because when we eat too much sugar at the wrong times without enough protein, it causes spikes in blood sugar, causes all sorts of health issues, including a dysregulation of cortisol, which causes a lack of production of melatonin. And melatonin is the sleep hormone that tells us that it's time to go to sleep. So it's a very interconnected web of things, but basically the bottom line is that you have to also eat properly in order to be able to have really good sleep. And then the last thing that I will say, what was the last thing? I can't even remember.
Well, oh, when now, if people are doing all those things, when should they come see you? And they're like, hey, I am doing those things, but I'm still not sleeping.
Okay, there was something else that I was going to say,
Oh,
but I can't remember what it was. So it'll probably come.
we'll remember it when we're not thinking about it.
Okay, so when people need to come to someone like me, here's the thing with sleep challenges. I didn't have one good night of sleep, and then I'm not able to fall asleep. I stay awake for hours, or I wake up every night in the middle of the night at 2 or 3 in the morning and I can't fall back asleep forever. Or I consistently wake up at 4:30 in the morning, even though I only went to bed at 11:30 or 12, and I wake up exhausted every day. Mm-hmm. So those are the type of people. Or I also work with families with young children. So I work with, I also work with, pregnant moms. I also work with families with, babies who are not sleeping through the night. I also work with families with teenagers who have screen addiction and anxiety. And so people come to me when they are at a place where they know that something is really, really wrong and they need help and they don't know how to do it.
Right. That's awesome. And I think, this all just comes back to how everything we do in our day-to-day interconnects, right? On the other end, I work with clients. A lot of my clients have health issues. And, especially when you're talking about the glucose levels, I have a lot of clients that are pre and diabetic, and how they comment, yeah, I just don't sleep well. Well, now it completely makes sense. So now it's going to cue me to go back and say, what are you doing at night?
Yeah. And the thing is that because the only time of day that the body does its repair work is in the deep stages of sleep, you can't heal a client, and you can't just fix what's going on with their food or, put them on a medicine and expect them to get better, because they have to be actually getting into those deep stages of sleep in order for the body to do the repair work. Right. So you're never going to end that cycle until you get that person sleeping.
Right. Curiosity. So we're talking a lot about people that are having a hard time sleeping. Do you ever work with clients on the flip side?
What do you mean? That are sleeping too much?
Yeah, that just are fatigued all the time, that just I cannot get enough sleep.
Yeah. I think that they go hand in hand. Some people are wired and tired and they can't sleep, but usually that ends up in, there's different stages of fatigue and exhaustion. And in one of those stages, you're anxious and you can't sleep. And it also depends on what's going on with the body, right? So for someone who has hypothyroidism, for example, they're going to feel exhausted all the time, and they're not going to be able to get out of bed. They're going to feel like they need to be scraped with a pancake scraper to get off the ground. For other people, depending on what's going on with them, they're going to feel really, really anxious all the time and feel like they have a fast racing heartbeat. And, so it's a both and thing.
Right. Oh,
and it's awesome. A spectrum.
Awesome. So tell me, so if people are out there and they're watching this, and as you're talking, they're like, oh, I really see myself in what she's saying. And, I think a lot of people, especially when it comes to working with a sleep specialist, will probably be like, is that really for me? And I think they might even be hesitant. But what can you tell those people that may be saying, wow, I resonate with everything she's saying and I see myself in everything she's saying, but is it legit for me to work with someone? Is it
Well, again, I would say you'll know it when you know it.
right?
The people that I work with, they know absolutely that they want to work with me. They've probably been listening to my interviews or, following me for a while, and they know who I am, and they know that the type of support that I offer is what they want. So there's not a lot of like having to convince people
Mhm.
that they should hire a sleep coach. They know that that's what they want. And I would say my work as a sleep and holistic wellness consultant is that it goes beyond sleep. Like, I focus on sleep because of my own personal experience with having severe chronic insomnia for
Mm,
years, and the pain and suffering that I experienced with that, and the personal fire that was lit inside of me to want to help other people and to educate people about that. And my work involves helping people like you with specific health ailments that are in addition to or adjunct to sleep issues. It also helps people who are feeling disconnected from themselves or lost in life. So there's lots and lots of different ways that I work with clients depending on what their needs are and what their priorities are. And again, I can't speak for another sleep coach because
yeah,
we all do it differently, and they might have a different way. What I would say is that if someone is out there, if you're listening and you feel exhausted, do some homework, go online, see what you can find out for yourself. I think that it's, the only person that can heal oneself is you. And so my role is really just to facilitate that healing process and to support you. And I know that when I was so chronically sleep deprived, I really needed that help because my brain was so offline that I couldn't even like think straight or read, scientific information in order to make sense of it all. It was just so overwhelming for me. And so that's the circumstance that you would want to hire someone, is when you are so exhausted or you're so stressed out or you're so anxious that you really really need someone to hold your hand and help you find your way.
right, right. Well, thank you. Thank you. So I will definitely, so everyone down in the description box is going to be all of Susie's information. You can follow her on Facebook, on Instagram. I've also included her website. Do you have any upcoming courses or classes or promotions or anything that you'd like to share with anyone?
All of my upcoming stuff is always posted on my website, and you can also follow me on Instagram or on Facebook. And also, if you go to my website, you can sign up for my email newsletter, and
Oh,
that'll give
great.
everybody
Oh, good.
all the information that you need.
Oh, good. So everyone, I encourage you to do that, even if, you may not need to feel like you need to work with a specialist right now, but you can at least be getting the tips and the information. So make sure that you do that. And Susie, thank you. This was just wonderful information. This is what people need to be hearing. And I really appreciate you taking time out of your day for us today.
Thank you so much.